This is Jody from Jody's Gems Quilting, and I am finally ready to share a long-awaited for video on how I make rod pockets, and I figured out how to put them on by machine. I love the hand stitching. I normally would do that, but sometimes I just don't have time. There's quilt shows coming up, got to get the rod pockets on, and so I figured out how to do it really quickly and easily by machine. So I'm going to share that today as requested by a lot of my friends. Here you go. So let me start by telling you how I make my rod pockets, and hopefully this will make sense. So whether you do it by machine or by hand, what you're going to do is you are going to measure the length of what you want, the length of your quilt, and how much you want, which this would be 39 inches. I have a handy cheat sheet that I use, okay? And you're going to add 2 inches. So this would be 39, 40, 41. So I need one that's 41 inches long, and because I've added 2 inches. And then you cut it in half. So you figure out what half of 41 is, or if it's 40 inches, for instance, it'd be 20 inches. Another inch would be a 20 and a half. So I cut 2 pieces 20 and a half inches long, just like this. This is for quilt shows or anytime you need a rod pocket. So you take that, you cut 2 pieces, then you press. I press each end. It's hard to see because it is black, but you press it in twice, 1/4 inch on each end, and you top stitch it. Okay, so I did that on both ends, so the seams are on the inside. Then you take your 2 pieces with the seam with the raw edges inside. You stitch the full length with a 1/2 inch seam, and then you press it just like this. Might be easier on there. Press it in half, just like this. And then if I'm doing it by hand, let me see, by machine. Yep, I did this. I know I did this earlier. There we go. So what you're going to do usually is you would bring it up like a 1/2 inch or so, and you press it again. Okay. All the way up on both pieces so that they're identical. Then you measure the middle. You put them on each end, just like this. Okay. And I usually take a long ruler. Where's my long ruler? Oh. And I measure it from the top, which of course, there we go. So I usually bring it down like 3/4 of an inch or so. And because it's black, I had white. I was going to show you on white, and I thought, well, that's not going to show up either. So I bring it down 3/4 of an inch all the way along, and I pin that top edge. Then I bring this one down, and I pull it up to where I pressed it again. So I do 2 pressings down here on there. What that does is it allows for the bar, the rod, whatever you put it in. So I pin all the way along here where my pressing line is. Oh, this one has it. Yep, right there. Do you see it? The pressing line. So I would bring this up. The other one must be upside down on there. I just grabbed it. So then you pin all along here. If you're doing it by hand, you would whip stitch all these down all the way around. Let me bring it down so you could see it. You would whip stitch all the way around. I do the ends right here. And the reason I do 2 pieces is anytime you have a smaller quilt that you're going to do, you want to leave a space in the middle so that if I'm hanging like 18 to 20, 22 inches, I will hang it on a rod, a dowel rod. I'll run a dowel rod through there, and I'll hang it from a nail right in the middle. I don't have to center it. I don't have to, measure each end. I'm not trying to hang each end of it. Now, once it gets bigger, this particular one right here is a little bit wider, like 40 inches. And so I'm going to put it on a curtain rod. And a lot of times on a curtain rod, on a great big one, it will have a center post in the middle. So by having a split in here, you will have room for that center post, and you don't have to cut your hanging sleeve. Okay, so let me take you to the machine and show you how to do this. Okay, so this is going to be really tough to show you, but there is a science, or there is a way to do this. If you're doing it on a great big bed quilt, let's say you're putting it in a quilt show and you have a great big bed quilt and you got to put a rod pocket on it, but you don't want to leave it on there. I recently learned that you can use a washable or water-soluble thread. And when you use the water-soluble thread, it looks kind of like this. There's different kinds. This is one I recently bought. It's almost white. It shows up. Can you see that? It almost shows up white. The one I had before was more clear. It was a YLI washable. Okay. This one happens to be a Vanish that I had to buy, water-soluble thread from Superior. And so what I do is I put this in the top of the thread, and then I put like the neutral color. I have an cream color rod pocket on here. It's all pinned on in place, just like I had for hand sewing. My pins are too close, and I should be pinning the opposite direction. It would be easier to remove them when I get there. So what I discovered is this takes a little practice. So I would suggest practicing on something that doesn't really matter, because what you're doing is you're doing a stitch that, in this case, on my machine, I tested a couple different stitches. On my Elna, it's this one right here, 023. I tried 021, they're too close together. So 023, which is like an extended blanket stitch. And it works pretty good. So let me show you, because what you're doing is just taking a bite on the left side. It's almost like a blind hem. And so you're stitching, and as you go along, the key is to keep this edge right here on the center. There's a center line, and if you're over to the left too far, then it won't take a bite. Sometimes you're going to miss it if it goes too far over. Okay, then you're going into the front of the quilt. So the goal is to stitch it without getting into the front of the quilt. Okay, and you go all the way down. I just deal with the top on this and the bottom. I don't worry about the ends so much. I might go back and whip stitch those a little bit just to secure them. So once you do that, then you're going to go and flip it, around to the other side. I got to get this tucked back down in there without it moving. It's hard to do when I got a camera in the way. And I want that out there. Ooh, I might try it. I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to just shuffle it up here and see if I can do it. Yes, I have quilt shows coming up in no time. Can you see that? Okay. So what happens is, let me bring you over here. You will see that the goal is not to see any thread. Okay? On the front. If you have like a white front, you can use white on that top, but with the washable, I can rip this out if I want to. And I'm not sure, this might get donated, it might get sold, the rod pocket might need to come off, the hanging sleeves, so I don't really want it permanent on there. But you'll see it looks really nice and professional, and it's really quick and easy. Again, if I was putting a hanging sleeve or rod pocket on a quilt that was going to keep it on, I would just hand stitch it like you normally would if you have time. Anyway, the backing on here is kind of cute. It's these cats. So I hope this helps you. I hope this helps you and that you will give it a try and experiment with it. I first started it on some almost pot holder size. They were just wall hangings, like a little pillow panel, and I loved it. It was like, oh my gosh, this works great. So it does take some practice to get that lined up just right so that you get a part of the backing, but you don't get too much where it goes to the front. So just keep trying and do your best. And again, this is Jody from Jody's Gems Quilting. And thank you so much. Have a great day. Blessings to you. Bye.